Hello everyone who is following my channel, where we embark together on strange, thrilling and surprising journeys in the vast ocean. Today, we will follow the footsteps of Indonesian fishermen, who stick to the sea every day, live with the wind and waves and are silently carrying out a special mission, hunting giant groupers using a traditional but effective method, longline fishing. In the Southeast Asian Sea, where the seawater is blue and the ecosystem remains pristine. Indonesia has emerged as one of the seafood powerhouses with a huge seafood output every year. But behind those numbers is a story full of sweat, effort and ingenuity of the fishermen, who still maintain traditional fishing methods. Simple, sustainable and especially effective when targeting high-value fish species such as grouper. Unlike the image of modern, noisy fishing fleets, which sometimes destroy marine ecosystems. Here, among thousands of islands of the Indonesian archipelago, coastal fishing villages still maintain the technique of casting long lines. The rustic wooden boats, which do not look modern at all, are the secret weapon to confront groupers, the rarest and most powerful fish in the deep sea. Groupers, also known as groupers, are a species of fish with a solid body, impressive colors and are especially valuable in the international market. At high-end restaurants in Hong Kong, Shanghai or Tokyo, an adult grouper can be sold for thousands of dollars. Therefore, for Indonesian fishermen, catching a large grouper can be considered a treasure under the sea. The morning starts very early in fishing villages on the islands of Sulawesi, Maluku or Papua Barat. Before the sun rose, the tough men began preparing their gear, long fishing lines, sharp hooks, boxes of bait and food for the long-hour journey at sea. There was no loud engine, no crane or modern machinery, just a small wooden boat, an outboard motor, and the determination to conquer the ocean. The special thing about the long-line fishing method is that it is both time-consuming and requires patience and experience accumulated over many years of diving at sea. The main line can be up to 1,000 meters long, anchored at one end and drifting with the ocean current. Along this line are hundreds of small branches, each with a hook and a piece of live bait, usually fresh squid or small fish still struggling. It is the live bait that is the key factor attracting groupers, predators that are extremely sensitive to movement and sound. Fishermen usually release the line at dusk, when the fish begin to leave their burrows to hunt. They rely on experience, judging the direction of the water flow, the terrain of the seabed, and even the moon cycle to determine the release point. Then, they wait overnight, or sometimes take a nap, and then return to pull the line early the next morning. The scene of pulling the line is a battle. From the end of the line, if you feel an unusual weight and strong jerks, it could be a signal of a large grouper, and as the line is gradually pulled up, the people on the boat strain with all their might, both keeping their balance against the big waves and trying to hold the line tight so as not to be pulled back into the sea. There are cases where the grouper is too strong. If the hook is not strong or the line is frayed, the entire system can be pulled out, leaving behind endless regret. But sometimes, luck smiles. A grouper weighing more than 100 kilograms, nearly 2 meters long, with a big head, thick body, and brown-black spotted skin like camouflage in the middle of the sea, slowly floats to the surface, struggling in despair. Each time, the men on the boat cheer as if they have just defeated a giant monster. It is not only the joy of fishing but also hope. tuition fees for children, money for machine repairs, and food for the whole family for many days to come. After being caught, the grouper will be washed with seawater right on the boat. The especially large ones will be placed separately in ice boxes or oxygenated containers. Kept alive throughout the journey back to the dock. At fishing ports such as Ambon, Ternate or Sorong, traders from all over are waiting. The grouper is weighed on the spot. Priced according to weight, freshness and size. Large, healthy and alive ones are often sold at prices many times higher than normal fish. Grouper fishing is not just a livelihood. It also entails an entire ecosystem of supporting industries, from ice makers, transporters, box makers, to cold storage operators, exporters and customs handlers. A single grouper not only feeds a family of fishermen, but also creates jobs for an entire supply chain. That is why longline grouper fishing is considered a golden profession in many Indonesian fishing villages. But like any other sea profession, grouper fishing is fraught with risks. Sudden rains, strong winds and waves, underground earthquakes, or simply losing your way in the middle of the ocean, all can turn a trip into a disaster in addition. Competition from industrial fishing vessels with large vessels and kilometer-long purse seine nets is making it increasingly difficult for traditional fishermen. They do not have enough capacity to compete, nor do they have the budget to modernize their boats. However, fishermen still stick to the sea, because they believe that their methods do not destroy the environment, do not harm small fish, and do not harm coral reefs, the natural home of millions of marine creatures. Today, we will board one of the large fishing boats in the middle of the vast ocean, where brave fishermen are making a living every day with their calloused hands and indomitable will. Today's story does not begin with gentle waves, but is an epic full of sweat, salt and sea fish, about the journey of catching hundreds of tons of red anchovies every day with giant bottom trawls. Dozens of nautical miles offshore, where the sea meets the horizon, where there is no longer a trace of land. Are fishing boats working silently and tirelessly. These are not relaxing cruise ships, but giant machines. Each ship is a floating fortress, fully equipped with a towing system, large nets, hydraulic winches and a team of fishermen who are always on duty, working day and night. Their target, red snapper, a valuable fish that is the dream of high-end seafood markets across Asia. Red snapper, also known as red snapper, is a fish that lives mainly in waters 50 to 200 meters deep, often living in areas with sandy bottoms, mud bottoms or reefs. This fish has a strong body, bright red scales and delicious white meat, very popular in high-end restaurants in Japan, Korea, China and Europe. But to catch hundreds of tons of red snapper every day, fishermen have to deploy one of the most rigorous and arduous fishing methods, bottom trawling. The process begins early in the morning, when the sky is still foggy. The sailors are all present on the deck. Each unit checks the equipment, winches, anchor lines, buoys, and especially the hundreds of meters long trawling system, rolled up in the hold like a giant python waiting to be released. A long whistle sounds, signaling the start of a new fishing trip. The ship rushes through the white-capped waves, heading towards the predetermined coordinates. where the sonar equipment has detected the red-spotted fish moving. Fishermen call this job a battle without guns. They face the sun, the wind, the high waves and the invisible dangers from the seabed. A mistake in navigation, a sudden storm or a small problem in the tractor system, all can make the fishing trip a complete failure. And as they often say, the fish are in the sea. But your life is in your hands. Not only does bottom trawling require skills and experience, it also requires endurance. The sailors have to work continuously for 10 to 12 hours a day, eat simple meals on the boat, and fall asleep while the engine is running. Sometimes they drift for a whole week without seeing land. But for them, each catch dumped on the deck is a great motivation, the hope of sending money home to their wives and children, the opportunity to pay off debts, buy new equipment, or simply live another season at sea, after many days of fishing. When the freezer is full, the ship will return to port, carrying hundreds of tons of red anchovies, the result of a combination of labor, technology and luck. The scene of unloading at the port is no less bustling, dozens of people waiting, refrigerated trucks lined up, traders competing to choose the freshest catch. Money is exchanged, contracts are signed, and the cycle of the ocean continues. Fishermen catching red anchovies with long-bottom trawls are not only creating a valuable food source for the world, but also maintaining a traditional profession in the age of mechanization. They prove that, no matter how advanced technology is, it still takes people who dare to roll up their sleeves, dare to drift and dare to face the ocean, to bring each bright red fish from the deep to the surface. When the fishing boat docks, hundreds of tons of red anchovies are carefully hoisted from the freezer. The unloading work takes place continuously from morning to afternoon, because time is an important factor in keeping the fish fresh. Right at the port, traders, purchasing agents and representatives of processing factories already waiting. They compete to choose large, even fish with bright red color and tightly attached scales. That is the sign of a quality batch of fish. After being preliminarily selected, the fish will be transferred directly to nearby processing factories. Modern facilities built along the coast to save transportation time and ensure the quality of raw materials. Here, red anchovies are put through a final quality check before entering the closed processing line. The first step is to classify by size. Large fish, over 5 kilograms, are usually kept whole for export to Japan, Korea or China. They will be raised in oxygen tanks or packed in insulated boxes containing ice. The smaller fish are then put into the cleaning line, scaled by machine, gutted, and blood cleaned. The entire process is supervised by a team of experienced workers wearing rubber gloves, medical masks, and strict protective uniforms. Next, the fish are transferred to the filleting area. The shiny red-orange meat is sliced with an extremely sharp knife. This step requires high precision to maintain the thickness of the meat and not break the fish's muscle structure. Each slice of red striped fish is placed on the conveyor belt to go through the superfast freezing area at -40 degrees Celsius, helping to preserve the flavor and nutrition inside. Not stopping there, red striped fish is also processed into many value-added products, from frozen fillets, dried fish, to fish sausages, fish cakes, or vacuum-packed frozen portions ready for supermarkets. All are carefully checked for food hygiene and safety. With clear traceability codes. It is this professionalism that has helped Indonesian red snapper conquer the most demanding markets in the world. In some large factories, there are also export packaging lines using refrigerated containers. The red snapper boxes are labeled with QR codes that trace back to the fishing boat, trawl net, catch date, and processing plant. Each container full of fish is carefully sealed and transported by sea or air to all continents. From Tokyo's Tsukiji Market, high-end restaurants in Shanghai, to seafood supermarkets in Paris and New York, it's not as simple as dropping a net and sitting around waiting. Bottom trawling is a complex system consisting of two long net wings that open to form a funnel shape. With a fish bag at the tail, the ship must move at a steady speed, in the right direction of the ocean current. Pulling the net at the correct depth so as not to damage the seabed while still collecting the largest school of fish. Everything requires smooth coordination between the crew, the person operating the trawling system, and the fishermen who are always watching behind. When the net begins to touch the bottom, the fishermen's heartbeats also speed up. Every movement was monitored by radar screens and underwater surveillance cameras. At a depth of 100 meters, the red-spotted fish began to move into the towing area. The rumbling sound of the towing machine seemed to echo across the ocean, like the breathing of a monster sweeping the ocean floor. After several hours of towing, when the clock pointed to noon, the net collection process began. This was the most important, the most stressful moment of the entire journey. The towing system began to operate at full capacity, gradually pulling each meter of the heavy net up from the water surface. All eyes were on the net bag at the back. The place that was considered the gold mine of the trip. Saltwater droplets splashed. Sunlight shone on the net, sparkling like a bright red jade carpet. Dozens of tons of red-spotted fish began to appear, struggling in the air, creating a scene that was both chaotic and majestic. The shouts echoed throughout the deck. The fisherman hurriedly operated the crane, opened the mouth of the net bag to dump the fish onto the deck. Hundreds of bright red fish poured down. Like a waterfall, forming a dense carpet that covered the entire deck. Some were as big as 10 kilograms. Some were still struggling as if trying to escape their fate. But all were neatly contained in the fisherman's spoils, the result of hours of tireless labor in the middle of the ocean. Not letting time pass by in vain, the fish processing team immediately began work. Sharp knives quickly glided over the fish's body, scaling, cutting open the belly, and cleaning each fish skillfully.